Hey guys, welcome to my first full-length tutorial. I was recently asked to talk about how I created these caricatures. This is all done with a volume mesher in Cinema. It's a super versatile tool. I absolutely love using it. It's the sort of thing, once you learn it, you can just apply it to a lot of different things, and the process for creating all three of these caricatures is exactly the same. So yeah, let's jump into this and I'll show you how I did it. So if I do Shift C and then I type in volume, you can see here we have two things. We have a volume mesher and a volume builder. We actually want both of those. So I'm going to grab both of them. And the volume builder, right, has a voxel size, okay? And this is the one you actually want to drag it under your volume mesher. You want to create a hierarchy here. So the volume mesher is the main parent and the volume builder is underneath, okay? So that's how we start. Voxel size, I'll explain this quickly so it doesn't cause any troubles later on. Voxel size is basically your polygon size. Now, if your PC can't handle crazy amount of polygons, you want to keep this higher up. The lower the value, the smaller the polygons, so the more polygons you have. It also means the lower the value, the more detail you have, and we'll see that soon when I get into it. So I'm going to start off by creating a sphere. I'm going to absolutely wing this. You guys can have a reference, choose a character, take a selfie, I don't know, choose someone like Rick Sanchez if you want to do them. It will determine what your starting object looks like. See, Rick, I used a where is it? I use a capsule for Rick's head, like this, and I modelled off this. But I'm just going to absolutely wing this. So yeah, let's go. So I've got my sphere, and I'm going to change this to a hexahedron because I like to have these squares at the front of the face. It just feels a bit better. I'm also going to add a camera in quickly. I'm going to add a camera and add a protection tag to this camera, and then I'm going to hide this camera. And my bottom right, I'm just going to tell this little viewport to look at my camera. So it means I can zoom around, and bottom right, I always have this. Cool. So we have our sphere. We're going to leave the segments as it is, and I'm going to make this sphere editable, right? And then come down to our polygon selection tool. If I Shift C again and type in grab, we want the grab tool. Now, you want to make the brush super big. You see how the brush is super big? You can change the size of this with the brackets on your keyboard. So one goes one way, one goes the other way. Cool. And we want symmetry on this. We want the X symmetry on the X axis, so the X, Y, Z. So it means once we start pulling it around, it does it both sides. And we're just going to start off by getting a bit of a head shape. I told you I'm winging this. If you have a reference, it's best to work with a reference, but I'm just really just doing this to show you guys the skills, and I'm going to see what I end up with. I've got this vision of Jimmy Neutron in my head with this huge forehead. Yeah, I kind of like that. It's a good starting point. I'm actually going to quickly change my camera. Just get a better angle. Cool. So we have our heads, and we're going to name this. Actually, first of all, we're going to subdivide this, because when I put this into my hierarchy, right, you want to drag everything underneath your volume builder. So I'm going to put this in the hierarchy, and you see it's going to start adding voxels to it. And I'm going to lower my voxel size to 1, okay? So now my polygons within polygons are really tiny. So these are polygons of the sphere, and it's creating more polygons within it. But the issue is you can see the original polygons, okay? Because it doesn't smooth out the surfaces. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to subdivide this. I'm going to drag my subdivision in, and then my sphere in, and I'm going to subdivide this. Let's see. If I subdivide it one time, you can still see the polygons. Twice, nice and smooth. Awesome. Right, let's start laying things out. What do I want to do? Let's just start with the eyes first. So I'm going to grab a sphere for the eyes, and I'm going to be using the symmetry tool a lot. So up here we have the symmetry tool right here. And I'm going to drag my sphere into the symmetry. Quickly go back down to this subdivision and just name this heads. We're going to keep this nice and organized. So we have our sphere, and this is going to be the eyes. So I'm going to make it smaller and then drag it out. And if you see I drag it to the side, we have two eyes. And I'm not going to change the type of sphere this is, because if I turn it 90 degrees, you can see it already starts to have pupils on it by the way the polygons are. So we're just going to place these eyes where we think we want them. Oh, they're a bit close together, maybe a bit small, maybe a bit bigger. Cool. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Next, we're going to add a nose. So for the nose, I'm going to use a capsule and make this capsule small. And just rotate it. Give him like a hook nose downwards. Maybe a bit bigger. I mean, we'll come back and mess with it a little bit later. Okay, next is some ears. Let's give him some ears. Now, there's an interesting way of doing ears. Okay, and I did it for the same for every single one of these. You notice the ears really look the same. And the way I did this was I grabbed a cylinder, made this cylinder basically flat, and then smaller, and then turned it on its side, and then make this editable. And we want to grab all the polygons, so Control A, and we're going to optimize this just so, because if anyone's messed with cylinders before, the top is never actually connected. So we've actually connected the top now. And what we're going to do is we're going to grab all these polygons on top, and we're going to extrude inner, and then extrude in there, and then extrude inner again, and then extrude out like a little nubbin bit in the middle. Cool. And then again, go up and grab a symmetry tool, put this in the symmetry, and we're going to name this ears. So now I'm just going to place them on the heads where I think they should be. They're usually like just below the eyes, right? Kind of match it with the eye line slightly. I'm going to make my ears a bit bigger. Like big monkey ears, aren't they? Move it in a bit smaller, and I'm going to angle them back slightly. Yep, I like the look of that. Actually, let's move them forward slightly. Towards the front of the head. Yeah, that's good. Right, now we're going to drag these ears into our hierarchy down here. And you're going to see it's going to merge these objects together, but there's still a very clear divide like around the edge of this. You can see it doesn't quite feel like it's like attached to the body like it should be. I'm actually going to drag them out quickly because I'm realizing we have a slight problem. So once you add voxels to this sort of thing, if two planes are really close together, you start getting holes in them because it'll try and merge them together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the back of this and grab all the polygons on the back. I'm just going to make his ear a bit thicker to get rid of the holes that were there. Right, drag this back in. Cool, holes are gone. And what we're going to do, right, to smooth this out, is go into our volume builder. And down here, you see there's a smooth layer. We're going to click this, and it's going to smooth it out. Now, this is done in a hierarchy as well. So anything above the smooth layer is not going to be smoothed out. So if I drag the ears above again, you see it unsmooths it. Okay, so it has to be below the smooth layer. So I drag the smooth layer back up, and it smooths our ears out, and the ears look pretty good actually. Cool. Next up, we're going to give him a mouth. We're going to go for a capsule. I'm going to drag this capsule out, turn it on its side, and just start to make it smaller and place it where we think the mouth should be. And we're going to give him, I think, a big grin, big cheesy grin. So I'm just going to place it where I think it should be. Cool. Now we want to edit this capsule. So we want to make it have a smile, because obviously he's just got like a flat mouth at the moment. So we come up to our effectors up here. We want an FFD, right? And you want to drag this so it's the capsule is the parent. So you want to drag this underneath your capsule, and then say fit to parent. Now if we click on the FFD and then go to our point selection, and then up top left we go to our rectangle selection, we can actually select all these endpoints. You see? And I'm going to select both ends. So hold Shift to select the other end. And we can start moving around our mouth. So I'm going to select the middle points and pull that down. Cool. And I'm going to select the ends again, and maybe we like move them in a bit, and then grab the middle and then move that out a bit. You see this guy starts to have a big grin on his face. Cool. And we're going to go back to this, name this smile, and hide our FFD. So at the moment he's just got some big lips. He's not got an actual like hole in his head, he's just got some big lips. So first of all we're going to drag this into our hierarchy. And then under our volume builder, where it says union, it has a little mode here, a little drop down box. So we can select 3 different things here. Union is going to add it to it. Intersects is going to basically get rid of everything else but this. But what we're going to do is subtract. See, and then he's got a big grin because it's taken the volume out of it. And of course, we want the smooth layer above it, remember, and that will smooth it out nicely. Cool, so we have a guy with a big grin on his face. But this is just like a slight hole in his head. It's not actually connected to like, any cheeks or anything. See, these guys actually have like cheeks on the inside of their mouths. And the way we're going to do that is by doing the same thing but on a bigger scale. So we're going to grab a sphere, and we're just going to move this sphere, bring it down a bit. We're going to move this sphere so it's on the inside of his mouth. And you can see it's a bit big here because it's poking out the back, so we don't want that. So, cool. You want this sphere just on the inside of his mouth. You want to make sure it's not protruding anywhere else. Perfect. We're going to name this mouth, and we're going to drag this into our hierarchy and tell it to subtract the mouth. And you can see he now has a big hole on the inside of his face. Again, move the smooth layer to the top so it smooths it out nicely. And we're seeing, because it's smoothed it out, the mouth is probably a bit close to the edge. So I'm going to grab my sphere. It doesn't like doing that while I have it in the hierarchy. Pull it out. I'm just going to move this back slightly. I'm actually going to make this editable because you've got a bit of a weird shaped head, so it's not quite the right shape. I just want to elongate it. Oh, that's not editable. I just want to elongate it sideways a bit, and then pull it forward. Drop this back in. Subtract it. Move the smooth layer up. I can already see I have an issue because it's poking out the back of his head. He's got a big cavity in the back of his head. Okay, let me do this again. Okay. And you just have to play around with it until you get something you actually like. You could get it first try, or like me, you could have problems on problems. Perfect, this guy's got a huge grin now. And I can see it's slightly, still slightly too big. Just move it in slightly. Perfect. Now you can see on these guys they all have tongues. And the tongues are really simple to do. It's mostly camera trickery, because it's not actually a tongue, it's just a sphere on the inside of inside of his mouth. It's like position it in a way that looks like a tongue when you look at it from a certain angle. Like that. Make sure it's not out the bottom of his head. Cool. Right, well, next we're going to work on the nose. Make sure I have everything names. Perfect. Go back to the nose. This is the nose up here. Oop. I'm going to drag the nose into the hierarchy. And then make sure, again, the smooth layer is above it. It's actually a pretty good nose. But you can always add to this, right? You can always add little bits in. So I'm actually going to grab a sphere. And then a symmetry. And I'm going to name this nose nub. It's like the nose nubbin, okay. I'm going to make this small. And I'm going to position this. Get this looks kind of rude. I'm just going to position these like little nubbins to the side of his nose. Maybe look like his nostrils are flared a bit. Pull this in the hierarchy. Smooth layer on top. Not quite what I want. Pull it out slightly. Yep. Now he's got a bit of like a wider nose. And you start to see how this sort of thing works. You just add in objects and merging it into the original object. And you start to get some really interesting shapes. So I'm actually going to come down and do this to the mouth as well. So I'm going to come up here and grab a torus. And torus is great for like adding some geometry around curves. So again, I'm going to put this in the symmetry. And I'm going to name this his cheeks. Because I'm going to give him like dimples. But we want to slice this torus, okay? Slice up here, top right. And we're just going to try and position this in a way that looks like he has dimples. And you just got to kind of mess with the positioning a lot on this. Keep moving it around until you have something you like. And I'm pretty happy with that. So it doesn't look quite right yet, but we're going to drag it into our hierarchy and it's going to add, it's like when he's smiling, his cheeks are being pushed up a bit. Looks really cool. Now, if I put the smooth layer above this, we're going to lose a lot of definition. So you have to make the decision. Do you want it smoothed out, or do you want the actual cheeks there? I kind of want the actual cheeks. Cool. I think I'm also going to give this guy some cheekbones. So again, I'm actually going to copy. Where is it? Where's my nose nubbin? I'm going to copy my nose nubbin, Control C, Control V, and I'm naming this cheekbone. And this is the spheres from his nose, and we're going to move these and position them here. And I just want to make it look like he's got some like cheekbones. So drag this back in our hierarchy. Oh, they're way too low. Okay. You might have to extrude a bit more than you think for it to be picked up by the voxels. So now he's got huge cheeks, but when I smooth this out, I think it should smooth it down a little bit. Oh, he's got huge cheeks. Okay, I'm going to move them a bit more. Pretty happy with that. Maybe just like in a bit more. Not as pronounced. Maybe a bit larger as well. Just want it to look like got some definition on his face. Yeah, perfect. Next, I'm going to mess with his eyes. So, what I like to do with the eyes always have these like indents around it. Your eyes don't just protrude from your face. They kind of sunk in and then obviously your eyeball comes out. So the way I'm going to do this is, this symmetry up here is, remember, is our eyes. Okay, so I'm going to copy this and then drag it into our hierarchy, and I want it again below the smooth layer. But I actually want to subtract these. Subtract. So you can see it's add this huge like cavity around his eyes, but that's way too prominent. It looks bizarre. So we're just going to go back into the spheres that make up the eyes, and we're going to lower the radius to below our actual eye radius. So this is 37.5. So if I go like 36, maybe, we can see we have some issues in the middle where it's like not connecting up. Maybe 35. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. It's connected back up in the middle, and now we have this little indent around the sides. Awesome. Let's give him, I don't really want to give him eyelids, but I want to show you guys how eyelids are done, because there is an issue that comes up when I try and do it. So if I go back and copy the eyes again, the original eyes, not the ones in the hierarchy, and name these eyelids. And the sphere, we want to make this a hemisphere. And I'm going to make it slightly bigger than the original eyes just so we can see where it is. Cool. Now if we rotate this, we see we have what looks like a bit like an eyelid. But if I drag this into our hierarchy, you can see instantly they just disappear. Nothing happens. And that's because it's not a closed object. And what I mean by that is, if I drag it back out, you can see it's got a hole on the bottom. It's not a closed object, and there's no way of actually telling the hemisphere to close it. Okay, so what we have to do is make this sphere editable by pressing C and then right click, go to our polygon selection, right click, and we want to say close polygon hole. And if you just like hover towards the edge of it, you'll see it fills in with this white. I click and it's filled it in. So let's add it back into our hierarchy, and I want to smooth this out. So below the smooth layer, and yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Looking pretty good. Now he has no bottom eyelids, but maybe I just want to add a bit of detail down there. So I'm going to go up and grab another torus, make this torus tiny, and again we want to make this torus have a slice on it, so half a torus again. I'm going to pull this up. I remember pretty much everything I'm doing is in a symmetry, so put this in a symmetry. I'm going to name this bottom eyelid. And I'm going to start moving this torus around and getting it in a way that kind of looks like a bottom eyelid. Thicker, moving it up. Cool, so it's just got a bottom eyelid now. Now if we add this, actually I'm going to pull this out a little bit, because remember every time I say it smooths it out, it loses a bit of definition. So I over protrude it sometimes, knowing that it's going to smooth it out. So that's probably further out than I'd want it to be, but I think when I pull this in and then put it below the smooth layer, yeah, pretty good. He now has a bottom eyelid. He also looks very tired. I think he looks very tired. Anyway, okay. What do I want to do next? Let's give him a funny chin. I don't think I gave any of these guys chins. This guy had a chin. Yes, actually, so did this guy. But we're going to give him a funny chin. So for the chin, I'm actually going to grab a sphere. and make it small and place it where I think the chin's going to be, like here. I'm actually going to make this editable because I want a bit of a wider chin, like that. Cool, I think I should do for his chin. We're going to name this chin. Drag it in underneath the smooth layer. There you go, he has a bit of a protruding chin now. Perfect, looking good. This guy's come along. So let's give him a neck. So these guys just have necks and bodies because I was the way I was gonna render these out just for Instagram is I only wanted like the profile of their head. This guy went and made his whole body, but that's a whole another like tutorial doing that. But let's give a head and a body, like really easy. So that the neck, we just want a capsule. Pull this capsule down and just make it a bit smaller. And we want to line it up where we think the neck would be. Probably a bit wider maybe. Yeah, I think about there. And we're just going to drag this into our hierarchy. Let's name this neck and below the smooth layer. Cool, so he has a neck. Awesome. Again, onto the body. And with this, I'm just going to use a sphere and pull this down and instantly just make this editable and then just make it look like a bit of a body. It really depends if you're like rendering this out where you're only going to have like the top bit. So if I was rendering it like this is a pretty good view right now. I'm just going to make a camera real quick because I actually quite like this view. Change this to my new camera. Delete the old one. Yeah, that's a pretty nice view actually. So if you're just doing it like this, he doesn't need a full body. Like this just looks like his shoulders, right? So I'm going to name this body. Pull this into our hierarchy. Below the smooth layer again. And he should just gain a body. This has the original problem, right? Where it's adding polygons inside the polygons. And unfortunately you still see the originals. So what I'm going to do is subdivide this. And because you've added a new object, you have to go back in and pull it below. Cool. Perfect, he has a bit of a body. So I think all he's missing right now is some hair. I mean, could have him bald. I actually think he looks quite good bald. But we're going to give him some hair, so I'll show you how I did some hair. Obviously, if you're doing like long hair, it's a bit more complicated. But you can use some of the same processes. So what I'm going to do is find the original head object. And I'm going to copy and paste this head object and then remove it from the subdivide division. So this is the original sphere we started with. So we've come from here to here, you get what I mean? Anyway, we're going to go back to our grab tool. So find the grab tool, Shift C if you can't find it, and then just type it in grab and make it a bit smaller. And what I just want to do is push it inwards so it's not interacting with his actual head. So you see, it's like pushed it in a bit. And then inside his mouth, we can push this. Oh, that's done an awful job. It's a bit bigger. We can push this backwards. And once you light this scene, you shouldn't actually be able to see the inside of his mouth. Like, you should have some shadow in there. I mean, you can come in and just get rid of all these polygons. You can just come in and select and delete these polygons. I'm just gonna push them backwards. Cool. Now he's got like the starts of some hair, and you can come in and start moving this around. But first of all, I'm going to copy and paste this hair object. So this is, I'm going to call this hair, and then I'm going to call this hair 2, and I'm just keeping this as a backup. You might see what I do with it depending. So we're just going to start going to start pulling the hair around. So let's find something we like. Give him a bit of a pointy bit in the middle. Maybe give him like some sideburns. Make sure he has a bit of a forehead. And just clean him up around the back. Let's give him a bit of a pointy bit. Cool. That's looking good for some hair. And now I'm going to come in and remember this other hair object. So you can start to layer these hair objects over the top of each other if you want like different styles. Okay. So I'm just going to move it in so it's not interacting with the original. And I'm going to come to my grab object. I'm going to turn off my symmetry. Because maybe I just want his hair a bit unsymmetrical at the front. See if I can get it how I want it. Just going to undo this slightly. Maybe it just has like this bit at the front that's a bit like messy. Like swinging over to one side. You can do whatever you want. Just layer this up slightly. Okay, you get what I mean. You can just start to lay the hair up, but I actually really hate this, so I'm going to get rid of it. Go back to his original hair. And I'm just going to grab my camera quickly, move this out. Cool. What is he missing? He has no eyebrows. I've just noticed he has no eyebrows. I wonder if I can quickly just like subdivide this hair. So I'm going to subdivide this by 1, just to smooth it out and make it look nice. Cool. And yeah, he has no eyebrows at the moment. So we're going to come in and grab a capsule again. And like every other object, he has 2 of them. So we're going to put it in a symmetry. I'm going to name this eyebrows. And then make these small. I'm just going to place them where we think his eyebrows should be. Because the eyebrows can give a lot of like definition to what sort of facial expression he has. You make him look angry, make him look happy, surprised. So I might give him like some thin eyebrows. You might have to rotate them to fit the contours of his head slightly. And obviously the eyebrows are not going to be completely flat. So we're going to do the same as we did with the mouth earlier, which is grab a FFD, pull this underneath, say fit to parent, and because we're editing one, it will edit both at the same time. So rectangle selection, I can start just moving this around slightly. Making it fit his head. So he's actually got a bit like a nasty grin on his face now, but I actually kind of like it. Looks a bit sinister, doesn't he? So hide the FFD. Cool, we have eyebrows. Yeah, this is me back 5 minutes after I finished that tutorial to realise I didn't give him any teeth. How silly of me. So we're going to give him some teeth. So I'm going to grab a cube and just make this cube small, kind of make it look like a tooth. Make it small. Maybe maybe the whole thing a bit bigger, give him some big teeth. And if I subdivide this, right, this is teeth. If I subdivide this twice, it's going to round it out nicely. But if I make this cube editable and then go to my edges, and keyboard selection is U, so it comes up with this little thing. U, L is loop tool, and I'm going to grab the loop at the top and then come up to mesh at the top, transform tools, and weight subdivision surface. And if I drag this and pull to the right, it's just going to weight it, so it's going to pull this top bit up, and now we have a tooth. So I'm going to put this tooth in my cloner, and I'm going to make this cloner radial. Now the issue we have straight away, right, is the point of origin is wrong for this cloner. It's all the way back here, and that's because it's going off the point of origin of our subdivision and not our tooth. Like, the tooth is here, subdivision is all the way back here. So if you click this little tool here, little like axes, you can move your axis around. So I'm going to move it to match where the tooth is. So now the cloner now matches in the same place. So I'm going to rotate this 90 degrees, and I'm going to transform it and rotate my teeth 90 degrees as well. Now we don't want a full like 360 of teeth, we just want like half, because I've done these teeth like curved so that you get some shadow in the edges. So we're going to reduce this end angle, just bring it around so it's like his front teeth. Maybe add another tooth. Yep, that's kind of like that. And then we're just going to bring it into his mouth, rotate it. Now we kind of want to line it up so he has two teeth at the front. This is pretty close actually. He's got some gaps, but I actually kind of want him to have some gaps on this one. I think it matches him. Cool, he has some teeth. Now, they all look very uniform. Teeth aren't uniform. You see here, I've moved his teeth around. It's very subtle, but some are lower than others. So if I make this clone, if I right click and say current state to object, it's going to pump out all the clones, but it's going to pump them all out in separate folders because of the subdivision. Okay, so we want to first of all click on this subdivision here and press C to make the subdivision editable. And then drag the cube back up so it's not in a folder. Delete the folder, and then right click on the cloner and say current state to object. And now they're not all in a silly folder. We can get rid of our original cloner. We're going to hide this. And now we have our teeth. And it's gonna work. The middle ones are going to be in the middle of the folder, as you can see. I'm just going to pull these down and then grab the next two. Maybe pull them up a bit and then grab the next two and then pull them up. And nice. He has teeth. Awesome. Let's change this. So this is our guy. Very simple, very easy to do. Second time ending this video. I added his teeth now. Good. Thank you for watching.